Hey guys, what's up? My name's Kareem, and today I'm going to be bringing you my Premier League 2019-2020 table prediction. Okay, so starting off, in 20th, I believe it's going to be Newcastle. I mean, you're looking at a club that decided to go from, almost being taken over by a Saudi prince, and we're in talks with signing Kylian Mbappe, and all of a sudden, they're just signing Andy Carroll and Joe Linton, and they've lost Rafa Benitez and Salomon Rondon as well as Jose Perez, meaning that they just had some of the worst business in the Premier League this summer. And purely based off of that, I think they're just going to end up bottom of the table. Now, next in line in 19th, I feel like it's going to be Sheffield United. Newly promoted side, I haven't heard much of their transfer activity. And it's just purely for that reason that I don't believe they have it in them to stay in the Premier League. They might be able to fight and get relegated like off like 2 points or maybe 3 points, but I just don't feel like they have enough in them to compete against the other sides in the Premier League. They did pull off a good result against Bournemouth this week because as I'm recording this, the first Premier League match day has already been played, but my table prediction has not been affected by this in any way. But they did pull off a good performance against Bournemouth, and they did manage to get a point. So fair play to them on that. In 18th, I think it's gonna be Southampton. Last season they barely escaped relegation. They did do some summer signings, but clearly there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. Their defensive line is like all over the place. They don't have a striker that's providing any goals for them. It's I just don't feel like they're escaping the drop this season. There's just no way they're escaping the drop. And yeah, it's really for that reason why I believe like they're gonna get relegated finally. Now in 17th, I'm gonna go and say that in 17th, it's gonna be Norwich City. Just because they didn't sign too many players, they're sticking with the squad they have. And sure, they were the best team in the championship last season. They got the Young Player of the Year in the league, Max Aarons. Timo Pukki was the league's Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken. And Norwich just, in general, play amazing football. Like, I watched some games for them down in the championship and some clips. They play amazing football. Definitely, it's good enough to keep them in the Premier League. It's definitely good enough to cause problems against some of the smaller teams. They did lose to Liverpool 4-1, but they did also manage to make them look vulnerable at the back in certain attacks. Like they did play 3 to 4 good plays that made Van Dijk and Joe Gomez look like complete amateurs in defense. Now in 16th, I feel like the season's just not gonna be it for Crystal Palace. You lost Aaron Wan-Bissaka. You've made some signings, but realistically, Zaha has already handed in a transfer request. He wanted to leave. He didn't end up leaving to either Everton or Arsenal. So now he's kind of stuck at Palace. And now you've got to wonder, like, is he going to pull out the same performances that he was pulling off for the Eagles? Or is he going to underperform now that he didn't get the move that he wanted? So I just believe that purely based off of that, they don't have much going forward. Batshuayi going back to Chelsea since he was only on loan to them, and I think he didn't even play for them last season. If I'm not mistaken, he was at Valencia. But anyway, yeah, so they basically almost lost all their attacking threat, and I don't think they signed the right back or any defensive replacement on the right instead of Wan-Bissaka. Gary Cahill is an okay signing, I guess. He's not a great defender, but they'll have to work with it. They'll have to work with it. Now in 15th, and I genuinely believe that they can possibly get a better finish than this, but I'm not going to be too optimistic. And I'm going to say Burnley. And now, Burnley are a team that don't usually sign players. They rarely sign players. They did pull off a big money signing at the end of the window with Danny Drinkwater. And for them, just having Jack Cork, Hendrick, Danny Drinkwater, and Stephen Dufour, that's a very good midfield for a team like Burnley. So I believe they will manage to get 15th in the league. And I mean, based off their first game result against Southampton, they absolutely annihilated them. It shows just how much work Southampton actually need to manage to stay in the Premier League, because every year in every Premier League prediction everyone ever does, Burnley's always in the relegation zone. Yet they always manage to stay in the division. And it's all thanks to Sean Dyche, of course. Sean Dyche is definitely the man behind Burnley, behind the reason why Burnley are still in the league. I mean, he got them promoted in the first place, so I see no reason why they should get relegated this season. Now, 14th, I'm not really sure why I put them there, but I'm gonna go with Brighton. I mean, based off their first game, they clearly seem to be functioning and working, and they have a good team. They have a good team. It's not like they're all over the place. They have a team that works well together. They can function. They can cause some problem against other teams. So, I just think they're gonna finish 14th. I might be wrong. I think I'd switch Crystal Palace and Brighton. Maybe put Brighton in 16th, Palace in 14th, because Palace still have a better squad. But we'll see. I'm gonna stick with Brighton in 14th and Crystal Palace in 16th, just because I feel like there's more trouble in Palace than there is at Brighton. All right. So, I said 14th? Yeah, 13th, Aston Villa, the last of the newly promoted sides, and they did spend a lot of money. They did play an amazing game against Tottenham over the weekend, but I just don't think they have it in them to get anywhere further. And 13th is a great position for a team that won the playoffs in the championship. Like, it's a great position to be in. Like, you don't get promoted and expected to win the league or get in a European spot. Aston Villa if they manage to get a mid-table finish, that would be amazing. Their goal is to just stay in the division. And they really did have an impressive start to the season. At the end of the day, they crumbled. They did play against Tottenham. It wasn't an easy game, but they kind of got tired as the game went further, allowing Tottenham to get back into the game and ultimately sealing a 3-1 victory. So it all comes down to they have to get used to the rhythm of the Premier League. It was a very difficult game for them in the beginning. Like, Tottenham were Champions League finalists. They weren't going to lose easily. And they pulled it back, so fair play to Tottenham. And yeah, it's simple as that. I just really think they can finish 13th. I'm not going to hype them up the same way people hyped Fulham last year. People that were saying Fulham will finish in the upper echelon of the Premier League table, like 9th or 8th, because of the signings they made. I just don't see that happening, because money isn't enough. You need a team that can work together and a manager that can lead them. So I think 13th would be good for them. Now, in 12th, I'm going to go with Bournemouth. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, maybe not, but last season, holy God, Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson at the top were one of the best duos in the Premier League. Genuinely, one of the most enjoyable duos to watch in the Premier League. It's like everything they do works. Fraser was the creator, Callum Wilson was the finisher. In almost everything. They have a very good attack. In Fraser, Callum Wilson, Josh King, and David Brooks. I think it's David Brooks, yeah. Who's a very promising youngster. He can play out wide, he can play in the center. He's a very, very solid player. As well as Josh King, who can average at least 10 goals a season if he really is on fine form. Not to mention they have good holding midfielders in Jefferson Lerma and Lewis Cook. They're very good. They have Nathan Ake at the back. I feel like with the right manager, they can finish 12th easily. Yeah. So in 11, I'm gonna go for Watford. Why Watford? Because they're just good every year. They're just a team that kind of either kicks off slowly, starts slowly in the season and then picks up the pace, or they start really slowly, they start really quickly, and they get like a top six spot within the first 7 match days, and then after that they kind of hit their slump, and then they start picking up the pace again. And if I'm not mistaken, they did lose in the opening game to Brighton, so you can tell there's kind of a start. It's a slow start to the season already, but with players likes of Gerard Deulofeu and Troy Deeney, Andre Gray, ex-Burnley player. Who else? They have a good team in general. Hugo Gomez, Roberto Pereira. They can cause some damage up front. They can hold their own, and they can handle themselves at the back, especially with Jose Holebas at left back. Very, very good left back. And yeah, I just think they'll be able to sneak into that mid-table spot. In 10th, West Ham. Just every year, West Ham spend and spend and spend and spend. They sign, and they sign. It's just useless. This year, I do like their defensive line. Balbuena and Diop, two very, very good players. Diop is promising. He can really grow and become a talent. But attack going forward, it's like you've got Felipe Anderson. You've got Mikel Antonio then. And then it's like they did sign Sebastian Haller. We didn't see much of him against Manchester City in the opening game. Really was just really, really tame, I guess you could say. Didn't pull off the performance that West Ham fans would have expected from him, maybe. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was Manchester City. We can't really blame him too much. Maybe for the mentality when going into the game, like the mentality of already losing before the game even started. Yeah, I mean, I guess, but he should be a good striker. He should help them a bit, but I just feel like the problem is more from the center of the pitch than it is scoring goals for West Ham. With Mark Noble and Jack Wilshere in your midfield, you're not going anywhere. They are two midfielders that West Ham desperately need to get replacements for. Arnautovic, I don't know if he's gone or not. I haven't really paid attention. But either way, Haller's going to be the one that's starting. If Arnautovic is still at the club, that's a bonus for them. But I just don't see them finishing anywhere higher than 10th. Now, in 9th, I'm going to go for Wolves. I know, I might not be giving them too much credit there. They were amazing last season. They managed to finish 7th, if I'm not mistaken. I think so, yeah. They managed to sneak into 7th. But this year, the Wolves just are going to have a hard time finishing or having the same season they had last season, just because of the fact that they have European football this season. And they did make a good signings. Patrick Cutrone, for example, is an amazing signing for Wolves to add Raul Jimenez as an attacking option. But you also have to question, do they have enough squad depth to compete both on the European front and the Premier League, not to mention the other two competitions, the FA Cup and the EFL Cup? Do they have enough squad depth? I just don't think they have enough. I think they're going to come up short this season. They're going to miss out. They're definitely going to miss out on, another chance at European football. But I still say they're gonna have a good season. 9th is a good spot to be in. All right, so in 8th, I'm gonna go for Leicester City. Now, I may be wearing a Leicester City kit, but I'm not a Leicester City fan. I'm a Burnley fan. I know you don't get many of those around anymore. Burnley fans. That rarely exists, but whatever. We'll move on from that. Leicester made a lot of signings, are very consistent, and their first game of the season was against Wolves. Yuri Tielemans, Ayoze Perez, they did let go of Harry Maguire, but realistically they managed to hold off Wolves, so it shows how defensively strong they still are. They're not just a team that can be pushed around, So I feel like they can finish 8th. Maybe not push for European football just yet, but with Brendan Rodgers as the manager, you never know what could happen. I still predict they're going to finish in 8th just because of how good the team is and the quality of the manager they have. They can definitely manage to topple Wolves. And, well, maybe they can even maybe finish higher than 8th. Who knows? It's all based off their season and how it goes. You don't just splash money wherever and then expect yourself to get a good finish. You know, just like Fulham last season, they spent over 100 million and then got relegated in 19th. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, moving on. In 7th, now this is a bit of a controversial one. I'm putting Chelsea there. I don't like Chelsea. Many people don't like Chelsea. Am I being too harsh? I thought that maybe I was being too harsh. But then I saw the game against Manchester United this morning, because I live in America. And holy God, I don't think I could have placed them in a better position. 7th is, I think, the highest they'll finish this season. There is no way Chelsea are going to play Champions League football and at the same time manage to get a top 4 spot in the Premier League, let alone a top 6 spot. Okay? It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I highly doubt they have it in them. They lost 4-0 to Manchester United. Kurt Zouma is even worse than Chris Smalling in defense. They have no back line. Not to mention, going forward, they've lost their star player. And not to mention, their manager is inexperienced. It's Frank Lampard. He may be a Chelsea legend, but he doesn't have the experience to be a manager. I mean, for God's sake, who starts Kovacic instead of Kante and Tammy Abraham instead of Giroud? I don't care how well Tammy Abraham played. Giroud has scored over 100 goals in the Premier League for Arsenal. He's scored more goals for France than Zidane has. You're gonna seriously bench him for Tammy Abraham? Kante was in the FIFA Team of the Year last year. You bench him for Kovacic? I don't understand. Azpilicueta has been playing at centre back ever since Conte won the league with them. Why do you just put him at right back all of a sudden? You've just lost a centre back, a very good defender. Anyway, I definitely just believe that this club has too many issues. Regardless of Christian Pulisic signing, he's just not good enough. He's not good enough for the Premier League. Realistically, I just can't see them finishing in the top 6. Alright, now in 6th, regardless of the result, United did win 4-0, but I'm putting them in 6th because let's face it, Chelsea were dead before the season even started. United were just kicking a dead body, to be honest. It was just Chelsea, a dead Chelsea. There was nothing you could do besides beat them. I would have been worried if United actually lost the game or even drew the game because that would have been embarrassing, to be fair. Was 4-0 a good show of what United have to offer this season? Yes, definitely. But it also showed how shaky they are at the back because Chelsea really did dominate the first half. And if it wasn't for that defensive mistake at the back, first half could have been all Chelsea. You know? So they still have a lot of work to do. Solskjaer has still a lot of work to do, especially with all the Paul Pogba saga. Not sure if he's going to stay at United. Not sure if he's going to leave. We're not exactly sure what's going to happen with him. He doesn't seem too happy at United. He did have a good game, but again, Chelsea are the worst of the top 6 this season. So really, they didn't really show too much. They showed their full potential. But how will the team keep going? Like further down the line, I'm not sure, because it's United. They'll trash Chelsea, then the next day they'll go up and lose to Watford 2-0. Who knows? It all depends on how well they perform. But I feel like 6th is a good position for them. In 5th, now I may be giving this team too much credit for no reason whatsoever, but Everton. They had a difficult start to life against Crystal Palace, 0-0. But I mean, it's only the first game of the Premier League season. You can't really dictate too much out of it. But no, they made a lot of signing. They signed Moise Kean, who is a very promising youngster. I just hope they can put him up to good use. They can really bring out the best in him. And I just really, really think that they have a team that is capable of going far with players like such as Richarlison that can play out on the on the right, on the left, up at striker. When you have Calvert Lewin, who's just a very promising youngster as well, he's a good player. Not to mention you have Lucas Dean, you have Jordan Pickford, you have a good defensive line in general. You have a good midfield in Gylfi Sigurdsson, a very, very, very good center attacking midfielder, very creative. He's going to be key for them in scoring their goals. They have Bernard, they have Morgan Schneiderlin. They have a lot of players. And not to mention, they've made a lot of signings. I don't remember exactly how many they made. They signed Alex Iwobi on the last day of the transfer window. So, really, they do have a lot of depth going forward. And I feel like if they get some lucky results against some big sides, they really are in the competition to finish in the top 6. Now, fourth, I'm not really sure about this one. About fourth and third, I'm not really sure about them. I feel like in fourth, it's going to be Tottenham Hotspurs. I just don't think Spurs have it in them this season to get that third spot. They signed Giovanni Lo Celso, they signed Ryan Sessegnon, I think, and they signed Tanguy Ndombele. They looked shaky against Aston Villa. Their backline looked very, very shaky. That is not something good. They did upgrade their midfield though, and their attack is already just very good. Heung-min Son, you've got Lucas Moura, you've got Harry Kane, you've got Dele Alli. You can't really ask for much more. You've got Eriksen. Seriously, you can't ask for much more than that. So maybe they could have upgraded defensively, maybe gotten a new center back or something like that. But I just don't think that they're going to be good enough to get that third spot. And the team I'm putting in third, basically, just because of the signings they've made, is, well, Arsenal. They've won the transfer window this season. They've won it with the amount of signings they made. Now imagine the attack. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Nicolas Pepe in the same team. They managed to bring in another center back as well. So realistically, they won't have to see Mustafi playing alongside Socrates. You'll have Socrates playing alongside David Luiz. Sure, defensively he makes a lot of mistakes, but he is still more solid than Shkodran Mustafi. You'll have Brent Leno at the back. They have a good roster. They have a lot of good young players. There's not really too much to say about them. They won their first game against Newcastle 1-0. It was a very difficult away game for them, yet they still managed to come out on top. Aubameyang scoring a very good goal. Very beautiful chip. And I just think that going on further down the line, Arsenal may be able to get back into the Champions League. But they could potentially even win the Europa League, you know. They have a squad that's good enough for this. And I mean, last season they came really close, just lost in the final. This season, I feel like they will be able to pull it off. Now, in second and first, it leaves us with two teams, Liverpool and Manchester City. And now in second, it's Liverpool. Let's be honest. When your biggest signing is a 15-year-old center back, really just shows Liverpool didn't want to spend any money. I don't know what Klopp was thinking, but I just don't understand what Klopp was thinking. They've looked shaky against Manchester City. Manchester City beat them in the Community Shield. I mean, it's going to be another tough season between both teams, but you can already tell Liverpool aren't as dominant as they were last season, and it's going to be very hard to replicate that season just because, well, you know, teams are going to get used to it now. But, you know, definitely they're going to finish second. Them and Man City are going to be miles ahead of everyone else in the league. That's what I can say. But I feel like this season they're going to slip up against some teams and lose some points, just like Man City did last season. They got 98 points, but they still managed to slip up in games. Like, they lost 2-0 to Chelsea. They drew with Wolves. Did they draw with Tottenham one game? I'm not sure. I remember they lost like 4 games last season, and they still managed to get 98 points. So it was a shakier season, but somehow they still managed to get 98 points, you know? But for Liverpool, I think it's gonna be more a case of they're gonna lose some games and draw some games, and City are just gonna be able to capitalize every single time because City have they've not spent too much money. They did spend over 100 million, but they spent the money smartly. Kyle Walker's getting older. They don't need a center back. They need a new fullback, and they got and first what I'm saying is basically Manchester City are gonna win the league. Was there ever any doubt that I was gonna say that? I don't think so. I just think the three-peat is more likely than Liverpool breaking their 29, 30-year duck of not winning a league title and never winning the Premier League. Um, I just believe that City just have such a good team. They can definitely win it. I mean, when your midfield consists of Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva, and on the bench you've got Phil Foden and Ilkay Gundogan, as well as Fernandinho, your attack is basically Riyad Mahrez, Leroy Sané, Raheem Sterling, Aguero, Gabriel Jesus. You just can't compete with the squad that this team has. You just can't compete with it. And sorry, I forgot new signing Rodri. Their most expensive signing of like the most expensive signing in the club's history. Not to mention they got Danilo. They got rid of Danilo, meaning that they actually have now two world class fullbacks playing for them that are going to be fighting for a spot week in week out. With Benjamin Mendy and Zinchenko on the left, Benjamin Mendy getting back to full fitness, we'll have to see how he performs finally for the Blues. The Sky Blues, sorry. And Zinchenko's already like one of the best left backs in the league, and I know he's not really that amazing, but he's a very good left back. He's shown that he can play at left back. He's shown that he can play at cam in the middle. And then Ederson, one of the best goalies in the league. Stones as center back may be shaky, but he's still more reliable than Otamendi playing alongside Laporte, just because Stones, when he plays for City, is a different player than he is when he plays for England. I mean, when he's playing in England, he's playing alongside Chris Smalling, so that explains the mistakes. But I just feel like City have too good of a team to lose the league this year, especially since they've even gone and improved on a squad that realistically you feel cannot be improved. And well, it just shows in the 5-0 thrashing of West Ham that this team is just only beginning. And God, you have to fear for every team in the league that are going to face them. They have a very tough fixture next weekend against Tottenham, but I feel like they will come out on top. Spurs are going to put up a fight. It's going to be a tough test, but we'll have to see how good Tottenham are. It'll be a good test. Well, anyways, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you agree with my prediction, with the table. If you feel like I made a mistake, be sure to point it out in the comments. Maybe tell me things you would personally change. Like if you would rank teams higher, some teams lower, where would you, who do you think would win the league? Leave your suggestions and everything down in the comments section. I will be reading comments. I will be liking them. I will be replying to some comments. So, yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Peace.